The beginning of the film is a devastating scene, corpses lying scattered on the ground. It seems that a bloody battle has taken place here. This place is called the Shadow World, and this is precisely the most dangerous catastrophe that humanity has ever faced. It will swallow the real world in black mist. Before that happens, the sorcerers must at all costs stop it. In the battle, the monster that looks like an evil god is Napolitan, and the man with a scar across his face is Desir. He is just a commoner, but is the strongest because he is the main character. After babbling on about destroying the world, the monster starts spitting out a gigantic burning glob of phlegm. But it is completely blocked. Feeling that the attack was useless, it then tried to strain out another move that looked cool, but cool like a toilet bowl. All the skills were completely countered, all thanks to Desir's sealing ability. Taking advantage of the situation, the three people at the front lines charged in to attack. Rushing ahead was the young man with the shield, using Thane's second skill to clear the way for the others. At the back, the jungle ad concentrated all his power to strike. The man with the axe leaped up and struck a critical blow on the monster. The girl wielding the sword jumped and danced around, but her spell teammate seemed to steal her credit. No, that was just a misunderstanding. The spell teammate pumped enormous damage into the girl with the sword so she could deliver the finishing strike against this evil god. After all their efforts, they finally managed to defeat the evil god Napolitan. The battle ended with the enemy losing one monster, and their side losing 150 million people. But still a gain because they took down the evil god and saved a world. The sky became clear again. The person with the greatest contribution in this battle was Desir. He was a commoner, but possessed power far beyond any other sorcerer. The battle not only brought immense losses, but also took away Desir's comrades. After the battle, the 6 survivors sat together chatting about the magical power that exceeded pickleball level that Desir possessed. But why was he just a nobody? And they also talked about their own plans. After talking for a long while, strangely enough, everyone should have been able to return to the real world after defeating Napolitan. But that did not happen. The evil god just now suddenly opened its eyes and began to shake the surrounding area. Deep inside its heart, it contained a massive amount of mana and was preparing to send everyone here back to dust. With their last bit of strength, everyone stood side by side, creating a fragile barrier to protect themselves. After all, this was the first time in human history they were able to kill Napolitan, so mistakes were unavoidable. Everyone seemed to have accepted their fate. Even Desir could not do anything in this situation. The monster's mana was pure energy and could not be affected by Desir's seal. Everyone accepted their end here. Desir had no choice but to close his eyes. He still could not believe it and did not want it to end here. Opening his eyes, he was in another place. This place looked very familiar to him. He looked up into the mirror and saw himself when he was young, shocked at what was happening. He turned around and was surprised to see in front of him Professor Bridget. She was announcing the recruitment of talents for Hebrian Academy through the battle in the Shadow World. Only 600 students would be selected. At this moment, all the students below were confused. But the professor said this was just an artificial world, so they should be reassured. At this moment, Desir realized the time he was in was the year 3613. In other words, he had traveled back 13 years before the catastrophe caused by Napolitan. In his gloom, he encountered Redoria Doric, a second-year student of this academy. She was a genius sorcerer ranked first in the academy. She had the fire attribute and was entrusted with supporting first-year students like Desir. After knowing that Desir was just a commoner, Doric was surprised, but she did not look down on Desir, because she was inherently a good person. This Hebrian Academy was a place with very clear class divisions. Nobles belonged to the Alpha class and commoners like Desir were in the Beta class. Commoners usually face difficulties in developing themselves and many talents are suppressed. Desir was guided by Doric into familiar places. Meeting again those people from before logging out, he felt very nostalgic. After a while, they encountered a young man whose hairstyle alone revealed he was a water-type player. His name was Elheim. Doric and this Elheim absolutely hated each other, just like their fire and water attributes. After knowing that Desir was a commoner, this guy openly looked down on him and skilled companion. He believed that weaklings like Herman, even if they took the exam, would only get into the Beta class, so better not to take it. In a moment, the exam for students was about to begin. Doric led Desir to the hall to take the exam. While walking, Desir had a faint hope of changing his fate from this moment on. Although this place was all familiar, the feeling of meeting comrades again was unexpected. He suddenly remembered the girl he had been unable to protect was also here. This pure-hearted girl was named Roman. She was also a first-year student like Desir. After this encounter, The flame of desire to fix this world inside him burned stronger than ever. After fumbling through the exam list, it turned out Desir and Roman would be in the same group. He already knew beforehand he would be grouped with his comrade, so he was not surprised. Meeting Roman again tormented him for losing the one he loved, and he resolved never to endure that pain again. In this exam, Desir would enter Group D, and the content of the first test would be to traverse the entire beginner shadow world called the Endless Plane. No wait, the Arensti Plane. Since this was a shadow world created by Hebrian Academy, it was relatively safe for fresh students. Damage could come from any source, which meant, in other words, contestants could use magic to attack other contestants. Elheim appeared once again, and did not forget to look down on Chairman Desir. He himself was not ordinary, as he was assigned to guide Azrest Kingscrown, a magic swordswoman. Desir knew very well about this swordswoman because she was the one who would fight side by side with him against Napolitan. Azrest was an ice element swordswoman. Moreover, she was a user of vision magic that defied computation. In short, she was skilled in both sword and magic and a reliable comrade of Desir. She was still as cool and taciturn as ever. Dorich also felt rather envious of that blue-haired Elheim for having such a pretty and skilled companion, but even if the opponent was a talented magic swordswoman, Dorich did not compare that to her junior, but instead encouraged Desir in this exam. Desir's Group D would be the first to compete. After the announcement of the exam groups ended, the gate to the artificial shadow world opened. Desir, Roman, and Azrest, along with nameless extras you need not know, stepped into the shadow world. Somewhere the familiar words echoed. Welcome to the Arensti Plane. In this battle, all 6 students would have to race against each other. They were free to use whatever powers or tricks they wanted. Anyone receiving potentially fatal damage would immediately be eliminated. According to Desir's memory, in this match Azrest would be the one to remain until the end. Azrest noticed Desir kept looking at her since earlier. "What, you like big sis or something?" She spoke to Desir without even looking at his face. She even knew Desir's name, which surprised him, but not because she had traveled back in time like him. Rather because Azrest had checked beforehand that he was merely a commoner with physical strength below average. She even affirmed she would not bother chasing after weaklings, so no need to worry. Above, the announcement broadcast the countdown, and the exam officially began. Azrest darted ahead like lightning, leaving the weak ones to eat her dust. 2 extra students immediately sped up to chase after Azrest. Left behind were Desir and Roman. Desir, whether unintentionally or not, kept running alongside Roman, and Roman kept being distracted by cute creatures. Desir felt happy because Roman was always drawn to cuteness, while she thought that this guy Desir was flirting with her. Desir always had that smiling, friendly face toward Roman, which made her feel nauseous. While they were running enthusiastically, they were blocked by a fireball. Sensing danger, Desir immediately reacted and pushed Roman aside to protect her. It turned out that it was a fire element extra who had shot, and he even declared he would bury the love story of the 2 of them. Roman immediately counterattacked with her own wind sphere. It was then revealed that Roman was a wind element mage. The 2 fought with fireballs and wind orbs. This fire-type player was clearly all talk, because after being struck once by Roman, he was instantly eliminated. On the system interface, it immediately announced that only 5 contestants remained in this battle. Roman, though cheeky, still did not forget the favor of Desir saving her just now. She thanked him, but every time she saw Desir's friendly face, she just could not stand it. After chatting for a while, Desir also realized the 2 of them had fallen quite far behind compared to the 3 who went ahead. Sensing that the 2 were about to be eliminated, Roman decided to show the true strength of how dangerous a wind element player could be. She created an extremely flashy wind magic spell. Meanwhile, at the Magic Council, they were watching the live stream of the exam. Everyone at the council felt that this year there were quite a few outstanding candidates. Among the most notable were noble swordsmen like Azrest, who demonstrated overwhelming strength compared to the other contestants. However, afterward, the council members felt very sorry for Chairman in Disguise Desir, because he was just a commoner surrounded by magical monsters. Only Professor Bridget was the one placing the greatest hope in Desir. Returning to the events of the exam, Azrest was obviously the leader in this group battle because of her overwhelming skill, and the contestant who tried to follow closest behind her thought that at this speed he would surely reach the finish line. But at that moment he realized he was just a background character when he was blocked by Roman's terrifying gale. As for Azrest, she was truly freakish when she used her sword to literally slash through the wind. Though introverted, she was very good at cutting the wind. The extra student thought Azrest was so cool he tried to imitate her. All his efforts, however, ended with him getting smacked in the face by a tree blown by Roman's wind. After that storm spell, Roman directly eliminated both of the extra contestants, officially leaving only 3 people on this plane. With this number of contestants, Roman would not even need to fight anymore, just rushing to the finish would pass the exam. But Roman, being hot-blooded and a bit crazy, could not ignore Desir's annoyingly friendly attitude, so she had to decide to eliminate him at all costs. On Desir's side, he found this reason ridiculously silly, but whatever, as long as she was happy. Roman prepared to launch a spell at Desir. Before blowing him away, she gave Desir the chance to surrender. Desir said, "Like hell I would." Well, that is me saying it, but Desir politely refused to surrender. Roman felt Desir was mocking her too much. She could not take it anymore and unleashed her ultimate move. Many magic circles were created and all aimed at him. In an instant, countless magical projectiles were fired simultaneously. Roman gleefully thought Desir was definitely finished. There was no way he could withstand her super ultimate pro skill. But there was a shield. Desir calmly stood there as if nothing had happened without even a scratch. Desir gently explained why Roman was weak like that, but he also pointed out some strengths in her last attack. Roman felt furious seeing this. She had to launch a new spell and demanded Desir submit to her. Roman unleashed all her power on Desir, while Desir, finding his comrade quite cute, simply stood still and let her strike. But in fact, he stood still to cast counter-calculation magic to alter the trajectory of Roman's spell. At this moment, Roman realized that the counter-calculation magic Desir used must have been stronger than hers in order to neutralize her spell. The surprising thing was that on the system it showed Desir had the lowest level, yet he could still block Roman's magic. Now Roman realized Desir's strength was far greater than hers. As for Desir, he declared that Roman had not yet heard his presentation, and he would finish her off in order to go find Azrest. Hearing this, Roman unleashed her entire magic combo to try to destroy Desir. Roman immediately summoned hundreds of magic circles and once again simultaneously fired them chaotically toward Desir. But Desir seemed to have already foreseen where each bullet would fly, so he neutralized them all. In his heart, he thought that provoking Roman like this would make her stronger and hoped that the hellish tragedy in the future would not repeat once again. Desir then cleared away Roman's magic circles, and Roman became even more surprised when she saw that Desir could even reduce the friction of his body. Desir affirmed to Roman that this was just a running contest, not a fight, and besides, when taking damage here one would only be eliminated, not end up laid on a bed, so it had no real practicality. Just as he finished speaking, Desir unleashed fire magic behind his back and pushed Roman away, which greatly surprised Roman about Desir's level. At the same time, Azrest was speeding rapidly toward the finish line when Desir chased him. But Azrest realized the situation and knew that Roman had already been defeated by this young man, through which Azrest also gained a different view of Desir. Azrest then had to stop and face Desir head-on if he wanted to reach the finish line. Just like Roman, Azrest unleashed a barrage of magic circles to blow Desir away. Desir immediately controlled with reverse calculation, but before he could fully solve them, Azrest had already launched his magic attack. However, Desir was still able to deflect the direction of that attack and avoid any fatal wound. And he even went further by controlling Azrest's ice magic and was ready to counterattack. With no other option, Azrest had to gather the remaining magic circles to cast one huge and lengthy spell in order to finish Desir. This attack was quite strong, so Desir could only deflect it slightly behind him to avoid damage. Desir took advantage of Indian theory, using the explosion caused by Azrest to propel himself straight toward the finish line without needing to fight Azrest directly. Though he won, Desir could not feel happy, because what he pondered was how to make Azrest and Roman stronger so that all of them could overcome the tragedy of the coming future. On the side of Class F, there was already one person capable of handling 3 contestants at once and who had passed the exam. This person's name was Danta Hadun. After the contest ended came the announcement of the exam results, according to which the Academy Council would meet and assign classes for the students. As we know, Class Alpha was originally reserved only for students of noble origin and high-level magic, and naturally the council would not place any commoner contestant into this class. However, this year the headmaster wanted to specially recommend one contestant into Class Alpha, and our beautiful Professor Bridget proposed Desir, because he had the greatest potential, having defeated even Azrest in the contest. At the same time, on the public scoreboards, everyone was very excited to be admitted into Class Alpha. Only Roman could not believe why she had performed well in the exam. yet was only admitted into class beta. Was it perhaps because she was not a noble? After being assigned to her class, Roman felt quite uncomfortable because the facilities of class beta everywhere smelled cheap. Moreover, the class even had a homeroom teacher with the face of a gangster. This teacher's mouth always insulting the students of class beta as nothing but lowly trash, which stung Roman's pride unbearably. Studying in class beta truly gave her a very bad feeling. And even worse, the one sitting next to her was none other than the guy who had ridiculed her in the exam, Desir. Roman was surprised because clearly Desir was the #1 server but ended up in class beta. As for Desir, he did not care much. He only looked at Roman and smiled, while she felt even more bitter. Desir knew very well that even if he were the top genius, he could only ever enter class beta, because even with the help of Professor Bridget, fate did not change. Professor Bridget was the one Desir considered family when he was still at the orphanage. All the teachers in the council reacted very harshly to Professor Bridget when they heard her propose Desir for Class Alpha despite his good achievements, because from the very foundation this academy had always divided the two classes by a thick wall, and that had never once wavered. And for Desir now, where to study is not important because he knows that in this beta class there are still many outstanding students. Here he wants to help everyone awaken the power within them so that each person becomes stronger when facing the shadow world. Studying in this shabby beta class makes Roman not want to talk to anyone during recess, so she sat down to sleep. At that moment, the young man who leads Group F, Donta, came to start a conversation with her. Donta began to flatter Roman, saying that he was studying in Alpha class and had just joined the Academy's #1 party called Blue Moon. Donta's intention was to recruit more excellent members like Roman into his party. Roman was both bewildered and saw this as an opportunity, because maybe if she joined this party the Academy would promote her to Alpha class. However, since a gift comes with some dirty condition, Donta laid out his requirement that if she wanted to join the party, she had to date him. Roman blushed in embarrassment. Although she was boy crazy, she still found this guy a bit weird. They had just met, and he already asked her out. Of course, she wouldn't agree. Donta then started spouting some cliché lines to flirt with her, like, "I loved you at first sight," or "You are a noble aristocrat who doesn't deserve to be stuck in this beta class." However, this happened too suddenly, and because she still needed to keep her value, Roman did not agree right away. Seeing that, Donta was fine with it. He gave Roman something he called a keepsake from his hometown, and Roman accepted this gift from the guy, probably secretly pleased. According to Donta, he only gives this keepsake to those who bring him a special feeling. Just as Donta finished, Desir suddenly jumped out of nowhere, making Roman startled out of her wits. Strangely, Desir reacted very calmly when he saw another guy trying to steal his milk box, maybe because he had already foreseen this. And Desir said that he also had a request similar to Donta's, which was to invite Roman to join his party. Of course, in this situation Roman immediately refused him, because just earlier a rich guy had already sworn oaths to her, so now Desir had no chance. Inwardly, Desir could not help but worry because her decision would lead to a disastrous mistake. Having no other way, Desir had to use a sneaky trick by handing Roman a letter and telling her to read it in a place with no people. Roman thought this was some sappy love letter, so she made a teasing face at Desir. Desir whispered in her ear, "Read it and then destroy it, or else you're doomed." It sounded dangerous, so as soon as Desir left, Roman read the letter. After reading it, she felt very frightened because all her secrets were known clearly by this guy named Desir. At the same time, Desir went outside and sought out his teammates from the future, the next one being this blue-haired boy. The boy's name was Pram Schneezer. According to Desir, in the future Pram was one of the fastest swordsmen in the academy. But at this time he was only studying in beta class, and Desir believed Pram could become even stronger if trained properly. As Desir was sitting, Roman came over to him, probably with many questions. But before she could speak, Roman was already captivated by Pram's small and cute appearance, even to the point she jokingly wanted to take him home to raise like a pet. Down below, Pram was preparing for his sparring session. Pram held in his hand a sword larger than the table to duel with a red-haired noble. His name was Percival, a student of Alpha class and a fire element mage. The duel began with the momentum heavily favoring Pram. His weapon was indeed huge, but he lasted barely more than 2 minutes before weakening and exhausting his strength. Up in the stands, Desir could not understand how Pram could possibly choose a sword bigger than his own body to fight with. The opponent seized the chance to continuously attack Pram. When Pram had a chance to counterattack, he swung with all his strength, but failed, causing his sword to be knocked away and making him the loser. Although victorious, Percival felt irritated because he had still been hit once by Pram. To vent his frustration, he stepped up and punched Pram straight in the face. Seeing that, how could Desir just stand by? He quickly ran down to intervene, not forgetting to angrily scold Percival as truly a despicable scoundrel, shameless beyond all measure. Feeling insulted, this noble brat intended to swing his sword down on Desir. But to Desir, against such small fry, it was enough to block the sword barehanded while looking at his opponent with loving eyes. Percival felt something was wrong and fled in helplessness. Right after that conflict, Pram gently bandaged Desir's wound and felt very guilty for indirectly making Desir the enemy of Class Alpha. But Desir, as usual, did not care much. Pram then began introducing himself to Desir and Roman, not forgetting to thank Desir for helping him. Pram promised that he would repay this favor, and whatever Desir might need from him, he just had to say. After Pram left, Roman suddenly remembered that earlier she had intended to say something to Desir. When only the two of them were left, Desir told Roman that he had long known her origins were not of noble birth, and that the noble title she was using to show off to others was only something her parents had spent a great amount of money to buy. And of course, the teachers at this academy all knew about Roman's background, which was why they placed her in Class Beta. Desir also repeated his advice that she should not join Dante's party, because deep down that guy only regarded commoners as filthy sewer rats. That was why Desir wanted Roman to come into his party. At first Roman refused, saying how could she possibly team up with a guy like him. But her attitude changed once she learned that Pram and Desir would form a team together. Moreover, Roman found Desir strange, as he knew too much about her, including her concealed abilities during the entrance exam, so she decided to join. She also did not forget to affirm that she would expose Desir's secret. In the past, Pram was given a sword by his mother, a symbol of the love that his father had for both mother and child, as long as it continued to shine. Yet, the sword in Pram's hand immediately shattered, leaving him extremely bewildered. That nightmare caused Pram to scream and jolt awake. That morning, the three of them, Desir, Roman, and Pram, arrived at Professor Bridget's office. Desir's purpose in bringing Roman and Pram there was to request the formation of a party. Hearing this, the professor was very delighted and had prepared cakes and tea to serve these students. When asked about the purpose of forming the party, Desir replied that he very much wanted to win the ranking battles in order to quickly rise to Class Alpha, no matter how difficult it might be. When Pram asked about the ranking battles, the professor explained that such contests would determine the students' ranks. The format would be battles between Class Alpha and Class Beta. However, those battles were only the preliminary rounds. The official rounds would be held in the Shadow World, and the 9 most outstanding would receive the title of single ranker. With that title, students of Class Beta would be promoted to Class Alpha. But in the history of the tournament, no one from Class Beta had ever managed to rise to Class Alpha. Indeed, Roman remarked that the strength difference between the two classes was too vast, so this contest would be extremely difficult. Even though Desir knew this, he still felt very confident that his party would win, because he himself alone was enough to overwhelm the entire tournament. Professor Bridget also believed that if Desir's team won, the rotten state of this academy would change, and the condition for forming a party was simply that everyone agreed to join with Desir, so she asked whether Roman and Pram truly wanted to join him. Immediately afterward, Desir led his 2 team members past Class Alpha's training facilities. As expected, the training conditions for Class Alpha were always fully provided, while Class Beta's training room was like a pigsty. The floor there had been eaten by termites, and deeper inside was even the permanent residence of rats. With his fragile heart, Pram turned pale with fear at the sight of rats, while Roman, obsessed with clinging to attractive men, leaped at and clung onto Desir. Although Roman said she did not want to train in that pigsty, Desir could do nothing, since this was the only place the professor could prepare. Therefore, whether they liked it or not, all of them had to clean it up in order to have space for training. A while later, when Pram opened his eyes and woke up, He saw that this place had transformed from a pigsty into a human dwelling thanks to the cleaning efforts of Desire and Roman. After struggling with the rats for a long while, Roman wanted to return to her room and wash away the stench of rat droppings. But Desire told her that since she already smelled bad, she should just train now, because if she went to bathe, she wouldn't be able to practice afterward. As for Roman, she was very hesitant when the professor asked if she truly wanted to join Desire. Desire knew exactly how to make Roman join, so he provoked her until she got angry enough to join on the spot. As for Pram, he very much wanted to go along with Desire, so he agreed immediately. And now that everyone was on the same boat, they had to listen to Captain Desire, which made Roman very irritated. The first lesson Desire taught Roman was to improve the accuracy of her magic, and she confidently cast multiple magic circles and aimed at the spot Desire had indicated. Although Roman hit the target, Desire wanted her to hit the exact center point. Upon hearing this, Roman was speechless, because she thought that no one could possibly do that. Desire knew that Roman would become an excellent mage in the future, as all of her techniques were already hitting their targets precisely. But he wanted her to become even stronger, so he teased her again by saying that she should just go sweep the floor instead. Hearing that, Roman was furious, but couldn't do anything about it. She could only listen to Desire and continue training. The next training exercise for Roman was to use her mana to place a ball into a circle in front of her. This practice would help Roman improve the precision of her wind magic. With Desire's guidance, Roman used a gentle breeze to lift the ball. Although the ball only floated up and then fell back down in the same spot, Desire was very pleased because Roman had grasped the core concept, and she herself was very happy because this was the first time Desire had praised her. Besides training Roman in magic, Desire also wanted to help Pram hone his swordsmanship. But the problem was that Desire didn't know where to start, since Pram was already very skilled in swordsmanship. According to Desire's memory, Pram was a formidable swordsman who swept through every battlefield when wielding the sword named Rapier. One thing Desire wondered was why Pram had chosen the largest sword to duel against the Alpha class students yesterday, when he should have chosen the smallest and most lightweight sword to use more effectively. When asked, Pram hesitated and didn't dare to answer. But when Desire said this was something crucial to the team's overall strength, Pram finally took Desire to his room to reveal the reason. Pram picked up the rapier and said that it was the sword his father had left behind. According to Pram, he had never met his father, because his father was a noble while his mother was only a commoner, and this sword was the driving force behind his desire to become a swordsman, with the hope that one day, when he became strong, he would meet his father. However, his mother always tried to stop him from meeting his father, because the two of them were never of the same status as that man. Pram's mother also suffered from a terminal illness, and until the end of her life she never once told Pram anything about his father. Desire understood why Pram's mother did that, because if Pram went to meet his father, that noble's reputation would be tainted, and Pram would no longer be allowed to sit here. At this point, Pram revealed that the reason he enrolled at Hebrian Academy was to investigate his father's reputation, and had even taken the sword to be appraised. But the results showed that the sword was a complete counterfeit, the kind no noble would ever use. Because of his hatred toward his father, Pram swore never to use that sword again and angrily threw it away. The next morning, Pram returned to training with the greatsword, while Roman became increasingly skilled in her ball into circle training exercise. While they were training, Desire leaned close to Roman's face and asked about the keepsake Donta had given her before. This made Desire suspicious about the origin of the rapier that Pram had once held. But the problem was, Pram had already sold that sword the day before, so the two of them went down to the town to search for the sword that Pram had sold. This marketplace was very familiar to Desire because before he transmigrated, he had been a regular here, and the place where Pram had sold the sword was located in a small alley. Although Desire really wanted to take back the sword, Pram insisted that he no longer needed it. After reading through the store's regulations, the two of them went inside and met a big, tall, dark, and smelly man. The moment they stepped through the door, this man immediately closed it, and Desire felt that this shop was definitely suspicious, not to mention that the shopkeeper himself didn't look decent at all. Without wasting words, Desire went straight to the point and said he wanted to buy back the rapier that Pram had sold. The shopkeeper stubbornly refused, saying that once it's sold, there would be no refunds. However, Desir still wanted to buy it back regardless of whatever price the man named. Smelling the scent of money, the shopkeeper brought out the sword, stating that this rusty sword was not worth anything at all. When the shopkeeper revealed the sword, Desir noticed the patterns on it resembled the noble design of the gift Donta had once given to Roman. The shopkeeper admitted that items with such patterns were usually given by nobles to the ones they loved, but unfortunately, he didn't know how to draw the sword out of its sheath. Seeing how badly Desir wanted to buy the sword, he shouted out a price of 40 silver coins, even though he had only bought it from Pram for 3. Hearing that, Pram was furious, but this was business. If you agree to buy, then it's fair trade. So even if the shopkeeper was cunning, he had to accept it. Not wanting to waste time with a bunch of swindlers, Desir immediately paid 40 silver coins. The deal was completed, yet the shopkeeper still mocked that Desir would never be able to pull the sword out anyway. However, with his magic of multi-penetration, Desir was able to read the hidden inscriptions engraved on the blade. Right after that, he handed the sword to Pram and didn't forget to instruct him on how to draw it out by pressing down on the small groove in the middle of the hilt. Pram successfully drew the rapier out, its blade made of a dazzling, polished metal. Desir explained that this was a light alloy as soft as feathers yet stronger than steel, perfectly suited for someone small built like Pram. The deceitful shopkeeper realized that the sword was far from ordinary and refused to let them go. He ordered his men to block the door, preventing Desir and Pram from leaving. He even demanded Desir leave the sword behind and he would release the two of them. Of course, Desir refused. Enraged, the shopkeeper told his burly underling to use force to suppress Desir, but Desir only dodged the attack lightly and left the fight to Pram. Desir also teased him by bringing up the oath Pram had made never to use a sword again, which embarrassed him greatly. However, Desir was still very eager to see Pram perform with the rapier in his hand. Small and agile, Pram easily evaded the enemy's strikes. He could now enhance his body to increase his attack speed, which greatly surprised Desir. The burly man laughed arrogantly and lunged at Pram, but Pram swiftly slipped behind him and slashed continuously at his back. Not stopping there, Pram used his incredible speed to overwhelm the opponent, leaving him with no choice but to stay on the defensive. Though his strikes were fast, Pram's slashes had not yet fully unleashed their power and only left small cuts on the man's body. Realizing the situation was unfavorable, Desir understood that Pram could only win if he aimed for his opponent's weak point. Pram charged forward again, this time targeting the weakness, but the burly man had anticipated it and kicked him hard in the stomach. Desir decided not to step in, only reminding Pram from outside to believe in his father. At this moment, Pram managed to read the inscriptions on the sword and was shocked that Desir could also understand them. But that wasn't important right now. The important thing was that Pram had to bring victory in this battle. Pram once again charged forward, and this time he outwitted the burly man, dodging his feint and circling around behind him. The man, however, had also guessed Pram's intention, so he turned and swung his blade, intending to cut Pram in half. At that very moment, Pram gathered all his strength and sliced the big man's blade in half, and afterward he defeated him with the hilt of his sword. The battle ended, and as both of them were about to head outside, the shop owner asserted that aside from his subordinates, no one would ever be able to open the door. Pram ignored what he said, swung his sword once, and the door split cleanly into two. That afternoon, to reward Pram for trying so hard in the fight, Desir bought him grilled meat skewers. Pram was deeply moved because Desir could treat him so kindly. Since the day his mother passed away, Pram had seemed to lose direction in his life, but ever since meeting Desir, Pram had felt happy. He did not forget to quietly send his thanks to his parents and hoped they would watch over his journey. At the same time, Roman was practicing Desir's ball lifting exercise, and after many failures she finally succeeded in placing the ball into the correct position. Everything would have been perfect if Desir were there to witness Roman's success. She then moved on to accuracy training, where she cast 5 magic circles at once, and all of them hit right at the center. Unfortunately, she was the only one to celebrate that achievement. She began to feel bored and decided to head over to Alpha Class's area to find Donta. Roman was then invited by Donta to a luxurious restaurant right inside the academy. It seemed that Donta believed this was a date between him and Roman, but Roman did not think much and simply ate all the food on the table. After eating her fill, Roman unexpectedly returned to Donta the keepsake he had given her the other day, which made Donta both confused and irritated. Roman then had to tell him that she had already joined another party in beta class, and not only that, but Captain Desir had also been helping her train extensively. As for Donta, he always despised and looked down on commoners like dirt, while Roman herself was born a commoner. Hearing this reason, Donta immediately changed his attitude but still tried to stay composed and claimed that Roman was lying. Even so, Roman did not deny her origins and firmly stated that she was telling the truth. At this point, Donta lost his composure and swore that he would never invite her to join his party again. Roman further revealed that her team intended to participate in the ranking competition and would rise to Alpha class. Upon hearing that plan, Donta threatened to crush Roman's slum party. Before leaving, Roman did not forget to thank Donta for today's meal, which only made him more resentful. It turned out that in the past, Donta's father had been executed by commoners, and even worse, Donta had personally witnessed the entire event with his own eyes, which is why he harbored such deep hatred toward commoners. The next morning, Desir's entire party gathered in the artificial shadow world and prepared for the promotion battle. Naturally, they easily defeated the teams in these preliminary rounds, creating a long winning streak and rising in rank rapidly. Thanks to this preliminary stage, the members of the team gradually coordinated with one another more smoothly, and before long they had reached rank 30 in the tournament. From here, Desir believed they would begin fighting in a more serious manner. In Professor Bridget's room, she had also received word of Desir's undefeated streak. But from now on she hoped Desir would be more cautious because there would be those who would resort to any means necessary to win. At the same time, a teacher in Alpha class was furious because a Beta class team could rise in rank so quickly. This teacher would never accept any commoner stepping through the doors of Alpha class. He ordered his students to do whatever it took to block Desir's team and not allow him to obtain the title of single ranker. The teacher knew that Azrest had once fought Desir in the entrance exam and had a chance to win, so he did not hesitate to assign Azrest as commander for the battle against Desir's team and ordered Azrest to win at all costs. With the pride of a noble and as one of the top swordsmen, the previous defeat made Azrest thirst for revenge against Desir, and this was her chance to do so. Immediately after leaving class, Azrest encountered the red-haired Percival and the young Donta. Donta believed that he had been deceived by Roman, even though she had done nothing to him, and he wanted to settle this grudge with her. As for Percival, he also wanted to find Pram to get revenge on him because he still held a grudge from that fight, and Azrest knew full well that personal emotions would affect the team's ability to compete. But the leader Azrest allowed both of them to act as they pleased in the upcoming match, since Azrest himself also wanted to settle the score with Desir. At the same time, on Desir's side, his team had also been training diligently to prepare for the next round. And that afternoon Desir led his two members to the school's library, where he pulled out a stack of history books and ordered Pram and Roman to memorize them. Roman didn't understand why they had to learn all that history, but Desir explained that the promotion round would be held in the shadow world, where many historical events would be recreated, and if they could prevent those events from happening, they would be able to pass the round. Roman and Pram thought they would have to study every book in the library, but only Desir, who had time traveled, knew exactly what events would occur in the shadow world, so he carefully selected only the necessary books. While Desir was focused on reading, Pram and Roman couldn't manage to read a single word, and Roman suddenly remembered that Pram had been taken out privately by Desir once before, so Roman was curious about what exactly happened that time. Pram looked embarrassed and didn't want to reveal anything, but Roman kept pressing him to spill it all out. While they were struggling with each other, they accidentally made a book fly onto Desir's head, making Desir feel that the two weren't taking their studies seriously at all. At that moment, from afar, Azrest entered the library and approached Desir's group, standing beside Desir with her eyes fixed on him, creating a tense atmosphere. After standing for a while, Azrest finally opened her mouth to greet Desir, and Desir, knowing for certain that she had already joined the strongest team of the Blue Moon Academy, also understood that her purpose in coming was to issue him a challenge. Azrest was a little surprised that Desir understood her so well, and she also apologized to Desir for looking down on him in the past, while not forgetting to declare that she would crush him in the promotion round. Hearing this, Desir felt very happy, because in his first fight with Azrest, he had given it his all to ignite her determination, which would in turn make her stronger and prevent the tragic future from repeating itself. A few days later, the time for the promotion round battle finally arrived, and the venue was an arena with 4 teleportation gates prepared in advance. It was clearly an important battle since even reporters had come to interview the faculty council. Desir understood the pressure his teammates were facing, since this round gathered only the strongest students of the academy, yet Roman and Pram looked very confident, likely because they had strong trust in their friend and leader, Desir. The 3 of them then stepped into the arena to the thunderous cheers of the crowd. Only Alpha class teams were present here, and Desir's team would start together with Azrest's Blue Moon team. One Blue Moon member, upon seeing Desir, immediately showed contempt, claiming that a weak commoner like him was unworthy of competing in this round. As for Donta and Percival, this was the perfect opportunity for them to exact their revenge. Desir thought that if he wanted to claim the title of single ranker, he and his teammates would have to defeat all the candidates here, or otherwise complete the Shadow World. The gates then began to open into the Shadow World, and the participants gradually set out, with only Desir's team remaining. Before entering, he reminded his 2 teammates to give it their all, because they would surely succeed in this match. Desir stepped into the gate and was transported into a forest, where an announcement was broadcast stating that the participants' starting positions were random. Just as he was about to search for his teammates, Desir was suddenly attacked, but he managed to dodge, and the one who had ambushed him turned out to be a member of Blue Moon. The blue-haired girl continuously used ice magic to attack Desir, but Desir immediately dissolved the shards of ice with his firepower. The girl felt that Desir was by no means an ordinary mage, so she simultaneously unleashed both water magic and ice magic to attack him once more. Although Desir was pushed back a little, he still had enough breath to spit out mocking words at his opponent, saying that Alpha class's magic was only for show. The blue-haired girl created a vortex of magic around Desir, trapping him inside and attacking him from within. She thought she had already secured victory and even gave Desir the chance to utter his final words. However, despite the overwhelming look of the vortex, Desir knew perfectly well that the magic within it could not defeat him, and he made this clear to the ice element girl. Those words struck right at her sore spot, making her quite enraged. In the blink of an eye, Desir broke everything apart with his invincible reverse calculation spell. This noble girl claimed that Desir's reverse calculation was only meant for lowly commoners. Desir, feeling that she always looked down on others, decided to teach her how to properly use ice magic and give her a lesson in humility. Desir then unleashed ice magic against her, turning her into eternal ice and immediately eliminating her from the game. At that moment, the organizers announced that only 29 students remained in the Shadow World. In another setting, a member of Alpha class was teleported into a vast grassy field, where he decided to rest out of laziness. While leisurely enjoying the breeze, a poisonous gust suddenly came out of nowhere and struck him straight in the face, instantly eliminating him from the battle. That gust came from Roman's magic. It turned out that on their way, Roman and Pram had reunited, and together they conveniently swept away opponents while searching for their captain, Desir. Roman in particular possessed the ability to sense nearby enemies, so the 2 of them easily defeated opponents. This ability once again proved useful when she detected Alpha class enemies close by. Roman immediately launched a magical attack, but 2 of them discovered her since her detection magic had the drawback of exposing the caster's location. As always, the arrogant Alpha elites, upon seeing a commoner, belittled her before doing anything else. Roman retorted that Alpha class was nothing but a bunch of delusional fools drunk on their own power. Pram, without any chatter, rushed in to strike, only to be blocked by the one wielding a greatsword. Both sides seemed ready and officially clashed. Pram used his agility to try attacking the greatsword wielder, but his comrade countered with water magic, forcing Pram to dodge. Pram then switched strategies, running swiftly around them to create a barrier that surrounded the 2 Alpha members. In confusion, the greatsword wielder slammed his blade into the ground, producing a thick smokescreen to help his ally cast magic. But that meant nothing to Roman, who used wind magic to fire precisely at the enemy's location. Roman reminded them that they were fools, since using magic would reveal their position. Now only the greatsword user remained. Roman simply had to cast her finishing blow, logging the swordsman out of the competition. Though not particularly difficult, this victory brought them both great joy. Throughout the fight, Roman had known Desir was hiding behind them. Observing their battle, Desir was very proud of his two friends for improving so much and kept praising their efforts. Only Roman felt annoyed that her finishing magic had been partially neutralized by Desir. To make matters worse, Desir even patted her head to encourage her, which only made her more irritated. However, Desir knew that the ranking exam was still ongoing, and now was not the time to be careless. In other developments, the weak contestants had already been quickly eliminated from the exam, and soon the battlefield in this shadow world had only 18 contestants left. Desir's sole objective was to help his entire team get into Class Alpha. To achieve that, they had no choice but to clear the shadow world. After thinking it over, Desir felt that completing this world was extremely difficult, so the more feasible option for them was to make it into the top 9 strongest contestants. However, the path to getting into the top 9 and seizing the title of single ranker would also be very arduous, as they would have to face many formidable opponents. With Pram's optimistic spirit, he was certain that the whole team could accomplish it. While they were sitting and planning, the rain started pouring down, so the group had to seek shelter under a large tree. Roman looked at her two teammates and thought that she had never once had any hope of being able to get into Class Alpha, or if she had believed Dante's words earlier, then what consequences would have followed. Seeing Roman worried, Desir once again patted her head to encourage her and told her that right now, both Roman and Pram had grown much stronger. At that moment, Roman could also feel the kindness of her captain and acknowledge Desir as a truly kind person. Though outwardly tough, inside Roman was very happy to be a member of this team. Just then, the sound of a clock's chime rang out, surprising all the contestants. According to Desir, this was the clock event written in the history book, and the book about this event was something Desir had already reviewed with his two teammates. The Prius Clock Tower was a high-level magical device, and whenever it transmitted energy into the sky, the shadow world would give birth to many demons. At this moment, the organizers sent out an announcement. The official survival mission had begun. Everyone had to find a way to survive the rampage of the demons created by the clock tower. At the Teachers' Council, everyone believed that Class Beta would never be able to withstand the demon rampage and would sooner or later be eliminated. Only Professor Bridget was very worried about Desir's team, unsure whether they could overcome it. Returning to Desir's group, they suddenly smelled something extremely foul. From underground, a giant rat emerged, causing Pram and Roman to jump and cling onto Desir in fear. This rat was not alone. It let out a scream to command the thousands of rats behind it to charge forward and attack. Realizing the situation was not looking good, the three had no choice but to run quickly. Desir knew these rats were demons, and their main diet was human blood. They could not be defeated by Roman's ordinary magic or Pram's swordsmanship. While sprinting desperately forward, a large tree blocked their way. Roman thought she couldn't possibly jump over it, but if she failed to jump she would become food for the rats, so she forced herself to jump and ended up falling flat. The leading rat charged at Roman intending to devour her, but she counterattacked. Just as Desir had said, the demon rats were resistant to her magic, so it had no effect at all. Desir ordered everyone to retreat temporarily, but Pram rushed headfirst into the swarm of rats, shocking Desir. In another development, Azra's team was also attacked by the rats, causing one of their members to be eliminated. Other teams were also struggling to deal with the troublesome rats, while the weaker teams could do nothing but endure and were quickly eliminated. Returning to Desir's team, Pram was searching for the leader rat to slay it, because he believed it had been severely injured after being hit by Roman's wind magic. Outside, Desir frantically searched the swarm of rats, worried that Pram would be eliminated, and of course he couldn't use magic either since it could harm Pram. After a period of effort, Pram from inside had managed to stab the leader rat, causing the other rats to disperse. The system announced that the rat horde had been exterminated, but Pram was exhausted as a result. Desir felt deeply regretful of himself for letting his teammate end up in such a state. Because he was too confident in the progress of Roman and Pram, Desir had been somewhat careless. Desir punched himself in the face and reminded himself of his true purpose for being here, that he had to try his best so as not to lose any more comrades in the future. After Pram woke up, Desir reminded everyone to move immediately because he had realized that the destination of this shadow world was the Prius Clock Tower. The rain grew heavier and Azrest's team soon reached the clock tower. They also knew that if they could stop the clock above the tower, the shadow world would be completed. But right at that moment, above the tower appeared a magical windstorm attacking Azrest's team, making them confused, and Azrest had to cast ice magic to defend. Anyone unlucky enough to be struck was eliminated from the contest immediately. Azrest now grew even more worried about the danger of Desir's teammates, because it turned out that Desir's team had gone up the tower before Azrest's team and was waiting for them. The remaining 3 members of Azrest's team did not hesitate any longer and rushed straight toward the tower's gate. But before Roman's storm-like attacks, Donta and Percival could only curl up defensively in helplessness. Even Azrest struggled because Roman's magic came from many different directions. Seeing this, Desir changed his strategy to attack other teams instead of focusing solely on Azrest. The purpose of this was to make the other teams move toward the clock tower. Roman felt suspicious of Desir's plan, so Desir told Roman to just trust him. Roman used his advantage from above to eliminate opponents, while Desir cast inverse calculation magic on the entire clock tower and waited for Azrest to arrive. Azrest and her teammates entered inside and also witnessed other teams battling here. On this side, the black purple-haired man claimed Azrest had used an ambush trick to sneak attack another team to get here. Although wrongly accused, Azrest could not say it was all done by Desir's team, because no one would believe a commoner's team could be that strong. Azrest immediately realized this was Desir's ploy, so she did not want to explain. She had no choice but to step up and fight a match against the black purple-haired man. The black purple-haired man started with hellfire magic surrounding Azrest, but such a thing was nothing to the number 1 swordswoman like her. Azrest instantly teleported behind his formation and finished off 2 of his members. Knowing he could not win, the black purple-haired man joined forces with another team to take her down. However, all the other teams only made Azrest spend a bit more time before swiftly clearing them out. Yet, there was no announcement that more people had been eliminated, so Desir's plan to borrow Azrest's hand to sweep away enemies had failed. From above, Desir and his 2 teammates heard Azrest's footsteps approaching. Finally, Azrest, Donta, and Percival confronted Desir, Roman, and Pram. It turned out that earlier Azrest had only used her ice magic to restrain the opponents, because Azrest would never allow Desir and his commoner team to enter the top 9 strongest. Azrest declared that Desir was unworthy of the title of single ranker because he had used cowardly dirty tricks. To win, one must prove their own ability. As soon as she finished speaking, Azrest used her ice magic to bring herself and Desir to the highest floor of the clock tower for a one-on-one, while below would be the battle of the remaining 4. Percival once again faced Pram and looked very excited, while Donta smugly declared that this was the time for him to settle his grudge with Roman. On the upper floor, Desir was lying motionless, but Azrest knew full well he would not be defeated so easily. As Azrest approached Desir, he suddenly used gravity magic to control shards to attack her, and of course Azrest easily nullified it with her ice magic. But before she could be pleased, Azrest realized that this room had already been imbued with Desir's inverse calculation magic. At the same time, while Pram and Percival were evenly matched in sword combat, Percival suddenly rushed in and used a headbutt into Pram's forehead, making him stagger. And of course, that much was not enough to faze Pram. He continuously weaved around and countered Percival with agility. Thus Pram kept taking advantage of the difference in speed to dodge all of Percival's sword strikes. Making him realize that Pram was no longer weak as before, Pram shifted to kicking Percival in the stomach, making him even more powerless. He could not understand how in such a short time Pram could have become so strong. But Pram did not bother to answer, and even stuck out his tongue to mock him, making Percival furious. Unlike Pram, Roman was facing many difficulties when fighting Donta, because Roman kept launching spells to attack Donta. She had now nearly run out of mana. Donta took the opportunity to move in to finish Roman. But luckily the ice chunk above from Azrest broke off and fell down toward Donta, reducing his vision. Taking this chance, Roman continuously attacked Donta from all sides, causing him many difficulties. Realizing the unfavorable situation, Donta used the necklace on his neck to blow away the mist. His vision returned, and he charged straight toward Roman with his blade, turning the tide against her again. Being a long-range mage, Roman could hardly fight hand-to-hand against a close-range fighter like Donta. Knowing that she could not win against Donta, Roman switched to negotiating. She noticed the necklace on Donta's neck resembled the one he had once given her. Donta said that a commoner like Roman would never receive such a gift from him. But Roman affirmed that whether noble or commoner, they were all humans alike. There was no difference at all. Hearing this, Donta grew even more furious because Roman's words reminded him of his painful past. He loudly and clearly told Roman that nobles were always superior, completely different from the lowly commoners. As soon as he finished speaking, he used his ring to create a circle of fire around Roman. Although Roman was able to block it, she could not block the next move and was hurled against the wall. Pram witnessed Roman getting injured and abandoned his own fight to run to her. On the enemy's side, Donta was so enraged that he demanded Percival step aside so he could deal with both of them at once. At this time, Roman needed time to recover mana, so she asked Pram to stall for her. Pram agreed and rushed forward to exchange strikes with Donta. Donta did not fight Pram directly, but instead used magic from the necklace artifact to pin Pram against a rock and finish Roman first. However, Pram broke free in time and slashed, cutting off the artifact necklace from Donta's neck. That strike also left a wound on Donta's face. Even though Donta was at a disadvantage, he absolutely refused to let Percival join the fight. Realizing Donta's sole target was herself, Roman wanted to fight Donta alone so Pram could defeat Percival first, but Pram refused because he wanted all three of them to obtain the single ranker title. Moreover, Desir was the one who inspired both of them, so Desir certainly would not want to abandon anyone. Hearing that Roman regained her fighting spirit and stood side by side with Pram, at the same time above the tower, the duel between Azrest and Desir was growing intense, because this time there was no finish line to determine victory like before. Desir was forced to defeat Azrest if he wanted to claim the single ranker title. Azrest cast ice magic to attack Desir first, but it was completely broken apart by his reverse calculation. Azrest felt approaching Desir was impossible, so she used ice spells to attack from afar. Azrest continuously summoned huge ice blocks to overwhelm Desir. As for Desir, he remained calm, and with just a few snaps of his fingers he dissolved all of Azrest's ice magic. He even cast Inferno to overwhelm her. After a while of fighting, most of the advantage belonged to Desir. Even Azrest herself felt the difference in strength between them. Of course, Azrest could not accept that. She could not understand why all of Desir's stats were far lower than hers, yet he could press her this much. Meanwhile, Desir remained carefree and relaxed as if nothing at all was happening. Desir continued to use another spell to attack. Fireballs continuously flew toward Azrest, but she charged forward while dodging them all. Azrest was truly formidable when she could approach Desir by moving through the air. Azrest's sword was gradually closing in on Desir when he blocked it. It turned out he had used enhancement magic on himself to engage in close combat with Azrest. This greatly surprised her, but the strength of a top magic swordswoman like Azrest was not to be underestimated. She swung her sword powerfully, sending Desir flying backward. Azrest relentlessly charged forward to attack Desir. She continuously swung her sword, creating an overwhelming stance that put Desir at a disadvantage. However, all of Azrest's efforts could not land a single hit on Desir. While Desir remained completely calm, he asked Azrest if fighting this way made her feel happy, because according to Desir's memory in the future, Azrest always carried that sorrowful expression. But if she could fight against a worthy opponent, then she would no longer feel bored. Azrest also admitted that she truly wanted to defeat Desir, so Desir also hoped she could unleash all of her strength. Azrest for the first time felt interested in her opponent and truly wanted to fight seriously. Azrest began throwing away her scabbard and cast a powerful spell called Winter Palace. Soon the entire tower was frozen. This place seemed like Azrest's very own domain. She continuously unleashed skills from every troublesome angle and Desir could only dodge. On the walls above, she even summoned dozens of magic circles and all targeted Desir. Destroying this palace seemed impossible for Desir, but he completely nullified Azrest's magic circles and made them disappear. Desir thought that at this age, Azrest being able to cast an entire palace-level spell like this was truly astonishing. Yet every time Azrest's magic circles were cast, they were all dispelled by Desir. He was confident that Azrest's techniques would never be able to touch him. Azrest also realized that if she continued fighting this way, it would be meaningless. So she decided to withdraw the Winter Palace spell and concentrate her power solely into her sword. Returning to the battle of the four people below, Donta was struggling greatly as he kept swinging his sword without being able to hit Pram. Pram took advantage of his agile body to rush forward and kick Donta in the stomach, sending him crashing into the wall. Donta felt it was time to abandon his pride and call for Percival's help. Donta did not forget to tell Percival that he wanted to eliminate these insects as quickly as possible. Percival immediately agreed and entered the offensive stance. He flew up, thrusting his sword straight toward Pram. However, Pram was able to parry and sent Percival's sword flying away. Taking advantage of the moment when Pram and Roman were distracted, Donta ambushed Roman from behind, while Percival snatched back his sword and launched a direct attack on Pram from the front, creating a pincer formation. In that dangerous situation, Roman recalled Desir. She did not want to disappoint him. Roman then told Pram to duck his head, and she instantly cast wind magic that blew away the two upper-class opponents. Meanwhile, Azrest was pouring all of her magic into her sword and transformed it into the ice sword. This was the ultimate technique of a magic swordswoman. According to what Desir knew, this technique required 10 years to master. More importantly, Desir knew Azrest had put tremendous effort into training and mastering this technique. With the ice sword in her hand, Azrest easily restrained Desir's rock throw spell. Even Desir's powerful hellfire magic was completely countered by Azrest. With the close combat ability of a swordswoman, Desir's reverse calculation spell could not affect Azrest, so she did not hesitate to charge forward. With just one slash, Azrest broke Desir's sword in half and pressed her blade against his neck. Azrest gleefully believed that she had the victory firmly in her hands. However, Desir was more skillful when he cast inverse magic upon the entire clock tower, which completely severed the tower's magic, and from that moment no more demons could be born. Desir had made a wise choice by completing the exam instead of dueling with Azrest. The system from the organizers immediately announced that the exam had ended and the one who had completed the mission was Desir. While Professor Bridget felt very delighted, the fat man from Alpha class was resentful and dissatisfied. He angrily threw his staff to the floor and declared that he would not accept this result. Right during the teachers' council meeting afterwards, that fat man accused Professor Bridget of using tricks to help Desir win, because until now no commoner had ever been able to overwhelm a magic swordsman and easily finish the exam like that. But it was obvious that the teachers had observed the candidates through the live cameras, and of course no one had seen any act of cheating here. So the other teachers advised this fat man in front of the headmaster to stop falsely accusing others. Not long after, the headmaster was about to announce the 9 people who had earned the title of single ranker, and affirmed that the fat man's words carried no value at all. After the intense battle, Desir approached Azrest because he wanted to talk with her. Desir admitted that at first he intended for Alpha class to fight among themselves to eliminate many opponents, but since Azrest had seen through his plan, Desir had no choice but to switch to completing the Shadow World. While still at the clock tower, he had tried to analyze the magic structure of the tower, but lacked the time, so he had to take advantage of the battle with Azrest to finish his analysis. As for Azrest, she also accepted that she was the loser in both exams against Desir. Desir affirmed that the strength between Azrest and himself did not differ by much, because at that time if Azrest's sword had been faster than Desir's inverse magic, perhaps he would not have been able to complete the Shadow World. At this moment, Pram and Roman suddenly appeared and said that if Desir lost, the two of them would fight in his place, and at the same time they protected Desir because they thought Azrest was bullying him. When Desir reunited with his two friends after the battle, he was very proud and patted both of their heads, while Azrest gloomily walked away because soon she would be scolded by her master for daring to lose to Desir. Azrest also had one request for Desir, that she wanted in the future to be able to train together with his group. Of course, Roman was the first to oppose, but Desir was more open-minded. He even reminded Azrest that she could come to the training room at 6 am or after classes every day. Those small words of Desir made Azrest smile for the first time, and that surprised Desir. That was the end of their chatting. For now it was time for Desir's group to head to Professor Bridget's room since she was waiting. As soon as they arrived, Roman was impatient to know the exam results, but before announcing them, Professor Bridget used magic to conjure a large cake. A very familiar cake because it was made by a very famous shop in the city. At that moment, the professor congratulated them and announced that all 3 had obtained the title of single ranker and successfully advanced to Alpha class. Both Pram and Roman were overjoyed with the results, and Professor Bridget was also very happy. The sight of the 3 children before her joyfully enjoying their youth made her reminisce about the past, when Desir was a hard-working child personally taught by her. All her gentle gestures while teaching Desir had looked no different from those of a mother. Now, seeing Desir grow up like this, she was deeply satisfied. On this weekend holiday, all three decided to go down to the city to have fun. Even though the next day they would have to attend Alpha class, they did not seem worried at all. Desire allowed Pram and Roman to freely enjoy themselves today, because once they entered Alpha class, they might not have much free time anymore. The first place the three went to was a fashion shop, and of course the only female member of the group was the most excited one. After trying on countless outfits for Desire to see but receiving no reaction at all, Roman became very irritated, while Desire praised Pram for looking great in his clothes, which made Roman even more jealous. Both of these fashion-savvy individuals also wanted to help Desire find a necktie that suited him. After indulging themselves in shopping, the three of them went to visit the shopping mall, and by coincidence, Azrest was also there, which surprised Desire very much because Azrest usually did not like going to places like that. Desire realized that now Azrest had changed a lot and was no longer as cold as before. Taking this chance, Desire invited Azrest to join his group for fun. In her mind, Azrest thought this was also an opportunity to take revenge on Desire, so she agreed. At the same time, Pram and Roman were playing a claw machine at a booth, and after winning a huge stuffed animal, they both caught sight of Desire walking together with Azrest. Unlike before, this time Azrest showed a very friendly attitude toward Desire's group. Seeing that, Pram was very happy and immediately invited Azrest to hang out together. Seeing that the group now had 4 people, Desire suggested splitting into pairs of 2 to play hockey. Desire teamed up with Roman while Pram teamed up with Azrest. Since their opponents were the strongest swordsman duo in the academy, Desire reminded Roman to be cautious. As for Pram, he was so serious that his aura turned menacing as if he wanted to devour Roman and Desire. Pram began serving the ball in a skillful zigzag trajectory, making it very difficult for Desire to defend. Meanwhile, Roman went big and used wind magic to send the ball flying straight into the opponent's goal. Seeing Roman use magic, Desire stopped her because that was cheating. On the other side, Azrest was not intimidated by Roman at all and directly used magic against her. Azrest used ice magic to create a wall that bounced the ball back toward Roman's goal. Witnessing everyone playing joyfully together made Desire very happy, because sooner or later they would all be on the same team and fight side by side as humanity's strongest battle squad. Seeing Desire lost in thought, Roman reminded him to focus. Roman made a move that sent the ball straight toward the goal. Azrest once again used ice magic to block it. But this time Desire also used inverse calculation magic to dispel Azrest's magic entirely. Through this outing, Azrest thanked Desire for helping her feel more comfortable, and from now on, everyone would help each other with studying as well as training in Class Alpha. The next morning, all 3 of them went to Class Alpha. The grandeur and luxury of this place left Pram and Roman in awe. This was the well-deserved result of the efforts they had worked so hard to achieve. Before going to class, Desire reminded everyone to first go to the training room to warm up. Today was special because Azrest also came to train with the group. The first sparring session was between Pram and Azrest. Since Azrest's swordsmanship was already outstanding, Desire wanted to sharpen her precision. Desire used the same training exercise that Roman had practiced before for Azrest. Though a genius, Azrest could not perform well in this exercise, so Desire asked Roman to guide her. Through her first training session with Desire, Azrest evaluated him as someone with very sharp eyes, as he could clearly see everyone's weaknesses and create the most suitable training for them. The training session ended, and everyone scheduled to meet Azrest again after class. During this training, Desire once again pushed Roman to repeat countless drills, which left her lying flat on the floor by the end. Desire believed that everyone needed to grow stronger as quickly as possible, because soon they would face real combat, and just a single small mistake could cost anyone their life. But under Desire's guidance, both Pram and Roman felt very confident heading into the upcoming battle. Their first lesson in Class Alpha was about the war between humanity and the Shadow World. According to the professor, this calamity would occur once every year, but up until now humanity had always conquered the Shadow World. Each time they conquered it, humanity would bring back magical stones that contained enormous amounts of mana, after which they would apply magical stone processing techniques in a place called the Magic Tower. The main purpose is to create modern magical items that serve the current life of humanity, and to make sure that the students had prepared their lessons. the professor asked his students who was the person who created the technique of using magic stones. Seeing Roman dozing off right in front of him, the professor immediately called her up to answer the question, and thanks to Desir whispering the answer, Roman was able to respond that the person who created that technique was Zod, the master of the magic tower. After class, Desir's group went to meet the professor, who also recognized that the young men and women before him were the single rankers who had topped the recent promotion exam, and today Desir wanted to ask the professor for a very important favor. After arriving at the room, we learned that this beautiful professor's name was Prelude, and she was a history teacher at Hebrian Academy. In that room, Desir went straight to the main issue and handed Professor Prelude the request form of the quest to protect the branch of the magic tower. According to what Desir knew, the Academy had the right to entrust quests to teams, so he wanted to ask Professor Prelude to assign this quest to his team. The professor, after hearing this, bluntly refused because Desir had nothing to do with this quest in the first place. But Desir knew very well that the magic tower was currently safeguarding a stone called the Tear of the Goddess, and he also revealed to the professor that in about 10 hours someone would come to steal the stone. He even named the thief directly, saying it was the dangerous criminal organization known as Outer. The professor's reaction was extremely shocked, because how could someone who had just been promoted to Alpha class today know so many important things, while Desir kept pleading with the professor to hand over this quest to him and his teammates, because if they delayed, he feared the stone would be stolen. That very night, the master of the magic tower, Zod, received news that the tower was under attack, and he also wondered who exactly Desir was to be able to predict so precisely. That same night, Desir disguised himself as a civilian to scout out the situation around the magic tower. While running, he accidentally bumped into the leader of the outer gang. The mustached leader's name was Kraken. Desir turned back and apologized to him with a pitiful appearance. At first, Kraken had no suspicion and politely helped Desir up, but his attitude flipped completely when he found out Desir was a starving commoner. He then threw all of Desir's bread onto the ground and stomped it to pieces right before his eyes. One of Kraken's subordinates wanted to get rid of Desir immediately, but Kraken didn't care about Desir's life at all. Just like that, the two thieves went toward the tower to carry out their heist, but they had no idea Desir had already set a trap beforehand. Kraken summoned hundreds of his subordinates in front of the magic tower, intending to seize the treasure inside. All of them thought that as long as they launched a mass attack on the tower, they would succeed. However, the magical barrier protecting this tower was extremely solid, so the thieves could not break through it. Seeing this, Kraken ordered his subordinates to add sword strikes on top of their attacks, believing that with 2 types of damage they could break it. After a short time attacking in this way, they finally succeeded in piercing the tower's defenses. All of Kraken's subordinates stormed into the tower and confronted the guardians of this place. The guardians formed ranks and cast magic to attack the outers, but the outers seemed immune to magic, so not a single one was injured. The guardians then had to switch to using swords to fight against the thieves. The strength of the guardians was greater than what Kraken had expected, which surprised him somewhat. Kraken ignored the battle and, along with a few subordinates, headed toward the place where the Tear of the Goddess was kept. The guards inside the treasure chamber moved outside to assist, and not wanting to waste his strength, Kraken used invisibility magic to sneak deep inside the tower. After going some distance, Kraken and his subordinates arrived at the place where the Tear of the Goddess was stored. The stone was hidden inside a sealed box and protected by a magical barrier. Kraken immediately ordered his subordinates to attack the barrier with magic from all sides. Feeling that their magic was too weak, Kraken himself took action. He approached and cast high-level magic. In just a few beats, he had easily shattered both the protective shield and the box containing the Tears of the Goddess, and at that very moment Pram appeared from behind and told the outers to surrender. When Kraken heard this, he calmly took the stone and asked how Pram could know about the name Outer. Pram firmly refused to reveal the reason, so Kraken ordered his subordinates to take his life. One of them attacked Pram with fire magic, but he easily dodged it. At that moment, he realized Kraken's subordinates consisted of 4 mages and 2 swordsmen. According to Pram, these subordinates were on the same rank as Roman but far weaker in power, so Pram did not hesitate to take them down one by one. Kraken felt his subordinates were useless and only getting in the way, so he himself stepped forward again to fight Pram. He used vines to bind Pram tightly in the air, and after restraining him he cast a spell to form a gigantic fist that struck straight into Pram's stomach. Kraken looked down on Pram, believing him to be nothing more than a student. Afterward he summoned a magical chain to drive Pram into the cage he had prepared in advance. Kraken ordered his subordinates to attack Pram all at once, but Roman's wind magic appeared and blocked all the Outer's spells. Roman continued to use wind techniques to take down several more of Kraken's subordinates and also attacked Kraken directly. Kraken sensed Roman's power. Although she could not penetrate his protective barrier, the sheer quantity of magic and the speed at which she unleashed it was very impressive. Kraken knew at that moment that he was facing a true master of magic, so he ordered his subordinates to protect him and vowed to take the stone out of there at all costs. Pram saw through Kraken's intentions and rushed in to eliminate the subordinates protecting him. Even though there was only one left, he still sacrificed his life to stop Pram. Taking advantage of this, Kraken cast earth magic to strike Pram from below, even sacrificing the loyal subordinate who had just protected him, simply to bring Pram down. Realizing Kraken was a wicked villain, Pram resolved to eliminate him in order to bring peace to everyone. However, Kraken's earth magic was extremely troublesome, preventing Pram from approaching him easily, and in addition he could use stone to form shields that Pram could not break through. Pram was forced to use super speed to continuously attack Kraken, but it still had no effect. From a distance Roman also poured her attacks onto Kraken, but accidentally exposed her hiding place, and Kraken counterattacked the exact spot where she stood. Kraken asked Pram and Roman how they had known about his plan beforehand, warning that if they did not answer he would end them right there. Roman not only refused to reveal anything but also mocked Kraken, infuriating him into attacking her. However, Pram intercepted and blocked all of Kraken's stone projectiles. Roman took advantage of the range to unleash wind techniques, striking from multiple angles, but Kraken once again combined a magical barrier with stone shields to block everything. Just as he thought he had completely defended, a stray rock came flying out of nowhere and hit him in the face. This time Kraken was truly enraged and attacked Roman, raising a cloud of dust that obscured vision. Pram seized the opportunity while Kraken was concealed to attempt an assassination, but his sword was caught by Kraken. Pram struggled desperately to pull his blade free before it was destroyed by Kraken's high-level magic. Standing in one place, Kraken unleashed an ultimate spell so powerful it destroyed the entire chamber. Fortunately, both Roman and Pram managed to escape in time and were unharmed. At that moment both of them admitted Kraken was far too powerful, and that they had been utterly defeated. Meanwhile, Kraken had successfully escaped through a tunnel in the magic tower and was very satisfied, believing he had obtained the tears of the goddess. However, after walking for a while, Kraken was suddenly blocked by Desir. He demanded Kraken return the loaf of bread that he had trampled earlier. Desir revealed that he had placed a magical mark on Kraken. Kraken remembered that when they had first met outside, he had shaken hands with Desir, and at that moment been placed under a tracking spell. Kraken still could not believe that he had been completely under the control of a kid like Desir from beginning to end. Unable to accept it, consumed by anger, he unleashed his magic in an attempt to send Desir far away. But all the rocks that this leader used to attack Desir were destroyed by him using reverse calculation. Desir at the same time calmly reminded Kraken to return the tear of the goddess. Kraken would not easily give back the stone that was already in his hand, so he continuously used magic to attack Desir in order to open a way to escape. All of Kraken's high-level techniques could not even touch a single strand of Desir's hair. Kraken was extremely frustrated with Desir's troublesome reverse calculation ability, so he had to unleash his full power. He summoned multiple magic circles at once to simultaneously attack Desir, but after all, Desir's reverse calculation was able to nullify them all. At this point Kraken understood that there was no way to win against Desir, so he held the tear of the goddess up and threatened to smash it. However, Desir was very at ease with that and invited Kraken to destroy the stone. As soon as he finished speaking, Desir rushed straight toward Kraken and used gravity magic to restrain him. Kraken was both shocked and wondering how in such a short time Desir could perform such a high-level magic. Desir had no obligation to explain anything to him and confiscated the tear of the goddess. While struggling against Desir's gravity prison, Kraken's mask suddenly glowed and blew away Desir's gravity magic. He immediately transformed his body, revealing his true form similar to a demon. From then on, Kraken's speed and strength had significantly increased. He began with a punch toward Desir that made him unable to react. Not stopping there, he teleported near Desir and added a kick that sent him crashing into the wall. Although Desir had managed to plant a fire spear into his leg, Kraken simply pulled it out and quickly regenerated. After that, he continuously attacked Desir with his fists, forcing him to desperately dodge. At this moment, Desir realized that if he kept being pressured by Kraken, sooner or later he would be exhausted. While dodging, Desir tried using fire magic directly at Kraken's stomach, but it was completely useless. Kraken suddenly summoned a stone fist from behind, which once again sent him flying. In his new body, Kraken was not only skilled in close combat, but could also perform magic. He used both forms of power to corner Desir, leaving him no room to evade. The battle situation had now completely turned to Kraken's favor. Desir refused to give up. He used reverse calculation to nullify Kraken's earth magic and continued fighting. Kraken realized that Desir was quite a tough opponent, so he decided to use his ultimate move to finish him. He created a sphere and exerted himself, causing everything around to be pulled into it. Desir sensed the danger of this move, so he also tried to use reverse calculation to nullify it, but failed. After a period of skill execution, Kraken had created a gigantic hammer, then charged madly toward Desir with it. On Desir's side, he also had to exert all his strength to create many magic shields to withstand Kraken's destructive attack. Thinking that with that move Desir must have been finished, Kraken was very satisfied. However, while laughing loudly, his hammer suddenly crumbled into a pile of sand. He did not know that during the time he created the hammer, Desir had completed analyzing its magic and destroyed it. Moreover, he even applied magic analysis to Kraken's entire armor, and successfully used reverse calculation, causing Kraken to scream in pain. To end this battle, Desir used the tear of the goddess to create a pure magic sphere. With this move, he completely blew away Kraken's armor and forced him back into his original form. Kraken stammered, wanting to know Desir's identity, but even he himself did not know how to answer. He only knew that he carried a very noble mission, which was to protect the people he loved most. The battle with the outer gang officially came to an end. The next day, Desir was brought by Professor Prelude to meet the owner of the magic tower. Standing before Desir was Zod, the mage said to be the strongest in this world, and also the reliable comrade of Desir in the future. Zod felt that Desir was an interesting student, so he invited him to drink tea and play chess together. Desir recounted that in the past, there was once a person who had taught him to play chess, always forcing Desir to play even though he did not want to. And the two of them also had beautiful memories together. Zod found Desir's story interesting and wanted to test his skills against him. Desir's opening moves made Zod feel that he was not very good at chess, and taking advantage of his opponent's carelessness, Desir suggested that Zod should bet something on this game. He said that whoever lost would have to obey the request of the winner. But Zod thought that a student like Desir would not be able to fulfill any request of his anyway. After thinking for a while, Desir decided to borrow from Zod an unrefined magic stone. Holding it in his hand, he drew out its magic and created a blazing flame inside it, which greatly surprised Zod. And so Zod agreed to play the chess match with a condition that if he won, Desir would have to reveal his secret. Desir immediately accepted and promised that he would fight with all his strength. That evening, Azrest had to attend a party with the presence of the fat professor, because Azrest had lost to Desir and thus had to endure unpleasant rumors. As for Azrest, she accepted that losing to Desir was something undeniable. Hearing this, the fat man became furious and threatened to expel Azrest from the Blue Moon party. Azrest felt that Blue Moon was not the right place for her, because Desir's party was truly where she belonged. Without any further hesitation, she firmly removed the Blue Moon insignia and threw it straight to the ground, then walked away before the fat man's astonished eyes. After the battle with the Outers, Desir's group also returned to their normal activities, and Desir did not forget to praise Pram and Roman for their efforts in that battle. However, both of them felt they were still too weak since they had been unable to defeat Kraken. So from then on, the two had to train even harder. Pram always wondered why Desir constantly wanted him and Roman to become stronger. Desir revealed that in 13 days the true shadow world would appear, and that it was entirely different from the shadow world created by the Academy. Therefore, Desir wanted both of them to become stronger so that they could face the true trial ahead. Although Desir only said it with words, because of their absolute trust in their leader, both Pram and Roman believed what Desir said. Roman stood up and asked who Desir really was, that he could predict everything. Desir was about to say that he came from the future, but was stopped by Roman, because she had already vowed to uncover Desir's secret herself. and thus no matter how much Desire revealed, Roman would cover her ears and refuse to listen. Desire said that the upcoming training days would be very harsh, and that every day he himself would personally train Roman. As for Pram, he finally got to meet his father again, and from then on Pram would train with him. At the same time, Desire quickly persuaded Azrest to leave Blue Moon. The next day, Azrest came to meet Desire privately, and upon entering she stumbled on a piece of paper and fell onto Desire. She hoped that after joining Desire's party she would receive much help from him. 13 days later, the Shadow World truly appeared. Hebrian Academy issued a summons for all students. This time, everyone in Desire's party was clad in new outfits, and moreover Azrest also arrived in full readiness. For Desire, this was truly the moment for him to fulfill his mission upon returning to the past, which was to save his comrades and fight to protect this world. Part 1 of this anime has ended. See you all in the next part.